Hey there, everybody. It's Tuesday. It's 3 o'clock. That means it's Tech Tuesday. I'm Rick Uzzi. Today I'm going to be talking about a network management and monitoring software called NetVizion. I'll be right back. Thanks for joining me for Tech Tuesday. Again, today I'm going to be talking about NetVizion and specifically network monitoring and network management that is part of that application. Last week I talked about NetFlow, which was also part of that application, and I realized I should probably come back and talk about the network monitoring and management. So last week I gave a kind of a explanation of what NetFlow was, and then I showed what that looked like in the NetVizion application. So if you were interested in that, I will post a link below this video. And then also I'll have a little pop-up right about now that will take you directly to that video on NetVizion if you want to look at that on the NetFlow side. So again, I explain what NetFlow is and I show some of the features of NetFlow. So today I'm going to be talking about some of the network management and monitoring on that. So let's bring that up. And I'm going to be showing screenshots today so I can go through these and not have to worry about clicking on stuff I shouldn't be showing, that kind of thing. So we're looking at a network here, and we're looking at this from the very top level. We can see the internet here, and this is our gateway router, and then we've got devices under this. So what's really nice about this application is it automatically will create this map for you. So basically you connect everything up, and you need to go in and do some setup, enable some SNMP and certain things, but then it kind of builds this network map for you and it keeps it up to date. So as you add devices to your network, it will prompt you. And for example, I think up here, I got that captured, but I think up here you can see network scanning approval is needed for 48 new private subnets. With your permission, the system will inventory the network and guarantee the physical and logical topologies. So I could click on Manage Networks there and go through, and I could select the ones that I want to go ahead and enable. And then again, that's going to be building my network map, and it keeps it all up to date. So that's really nice. So again, I'm looking at the top level here. I can, down here in this screen, I see I've got 11 warnings. So I've got some information here about top device usage, and I've got stuff that's blurred out here, but I've got top device usage and gigabits per second. I can see here warnings, and it looks like I've got 11. And you can click on that and see what those are all about. And then here I see I've got some packet discards, and these were over time. So this was March 13th, 2021, not just a couple days ago. Then we've got an interface. The CMTS was at 86% utilization, and that came through several times. And then down here you can see if this was active or dismissed. This is active because it was never dismissed, this particular alert. And it does show dispatched, which means that a notification was sent. So a notification was sent on these. So there's some alerts on here that have not been dismissed, still active, but nothing critical, I guess. This has not reappeared again here. So I can close that. I would just click that X to close it. I also can see down here I've got informational alerts as well. I could click that and I can see what some of these are. And really all of these are about configuration changes. So anytime a configuration change is made, the system will back that up. And I've heard that it could back it up like 10 years, I think up to 10 years of time if you needed to go back on that. So my phone is ringing and I'm going to ignore that. There we go. I'm not sure who that is. So you can see here configuration changes, and they're all pretty much the same. So I'll close that. Over here, I just scroll down basically. So I scroll down on that same screen, and you can see I've got CPU, memory, and storage here, and I've got the utilization. I can sort by those. So these are my top device utilization. Again, I've just got the device names all blurred out here. So you can see that. I've got kind of a representation of what the bandwidth looks like. I can go in here and I can hover over a particular point like I did right here and see what that is at that point. Scroll back up, and I can hover over any of these particular icons here. This gateway router, if I hover over that, I can see the status, I can see that it's managed, I can see what the model is, and then I get a list of IP addresses and networks. So I get a little summary information right there by just hovering over that. I can do the same if I hover over a line signifying cabling. And in this case, it's blue. It's blue like that color blue. When I hover over it, it changes a little different color blue. And this would be a layer 1 right here, and I can see the information I get from that. And also I can see by this is blue here, and this is blue here, and this is blue here. They're all the same color, except I'm hovered over this, so it's a little slightly different color. But I can tell by the thickness also. It kind of gives me a representation of the amount of bandwidth that's being transferred through that relative to other lines right here, for example, this one. And this is a gray one right here. This would be layer 3, and I can see the information that I get on that, and some of the information there. Again, status is up, some of the information, negotiated speed, whatnot, layer 3 connection. Came over here, and I've got a 12 right here. So this shows me at this particular part of the network, I've got 12 devices behind this. So it's basically a little shortcut so that map is not huge on my screen, and I can expand that if I wanted to. Right here I can see some summary information just by highlighting it, but if I expand it, then I get a further view of that map. Right over here, this just expanded out. I could close that down by clicking those little arrows. And I've got, again, a few other, like this is showing 2s, 2, 2, and 2. So there's some 2s here, that there's some additional devices right here. But let's say I wanted to look at this CMTS right here. Again, if I hover over it, I get some specific information about that. I can see that it's up, and it's managed, and IP addresses and networks. And I can click on it. And when I do, I don't know if you noticed, I'll go back 1 second. So you can see here on this portion of the screen, this is going to change when I click on it. And now I'm looking at that specific device right here. So again, I see it's a CMTS, subnets, I can see IP addresses, it's a Cadence CMTS, got the software version, the serial number, and firmware versions. Whoops, didn't mean to go forward. That I could see if that was not blurred out. I can see it's up. It's been up for 329 days, 204 of 306 online interfaces. I'm not sure what that is. It might be that they're not all being tracked in here. Traffic insights not detected. So that's NetFlow. So this particular device does not support NetFlow, so I would not be able to drill in and see specifically from this device's vantage point what's happening as far as NetFlow goes. I can see up further up the line, like through the router, but I can't see on this particular device because that's not supported. NetFlow is not supported here on this device. Over here I've got open alerts, nothing emergency, nothing critical. I have 4 warnings and 11 are informational. So very similar to what I showed before. When you click on that, you'll get your warnings and your informational warnings, but nothing critical here. I just scroll down and I can see here the top interfaces by utilization, and I can see that for transmit and receive. And I could sort by either one of those. Here I've got my device bandwidth, and I can see the spikes and whatnot. This is over 12 hours, and I have that selected up here. So I could be looking at the last 10 minutes. I could be looking, I think, at the last 30 days or longer. So you've got, up here you can change your calendar to see what particular time frame you want to look at. I've got device utilization here, and this is empty. It may be that this particular device does not support collecting that, or maybe it's just not set up to collect that. I've got my device packets down here that I can see, again, over that same time frame. So up here I've got, on this device bandwidth, I've got average bandwidth, and I've got yellow is my average transmit, and green is my average receive. And then down here in packets, I've got my average broadcast, 572 seconds, I guess, /S. And then I've got average multicast, and I've got average unicast. So I've got my device packets there. And when you see arrows like this and this, actually before I do that, I was going to show this. So I can scroll over any part of this line and see some summary information there on what's happening at that specific time. If I want to know what the exact bandwidth amount was and transmit and receive, I can hover over that on these charts. And then I've got these over here, where when I see these arrows, that means I can expand this out and go into what's called troubleshooting mode. And when I do that, you'll see this remains the same. I've added this little small summary up here, which I'm going to use to drill in a second. And then down here, I've got my bandwidth for the different interfaces, my total bandwidth, my high, low, my average, and then if there's something that's connected to, it shows me that there as well. And again, what I can do up here is I can, if I see a particular area that I want to zoom in on, I can drag my mouse along that, and when I drag my mouse, it's interesting, I hadn't let go at this point, and I noticed that these already adjusted down here. So these charts adjusted to the new time frame. When I let go, you'll see this adjusted as well. So now I'm looking at this particular time frame, and again, I could, if I were hovering over on the live application, I'd be seeing what the exact amounts are right here. I think I did that. Yeah, I did that here, where I just hovered over this particular interface, and I can see 2.8 gigabits per second right there in bandwidth on that interface. So that would be the troubleshooting mode. So I would just click an X to get out of that, and I come back up to the top. And again, I can do the same thing. I was looking at one of the CMTSs under here. Actually, it was under here. When I clicked on it, I zoomed in on one of the CMTSs under here. There's also 3 that are under here. And I can click this, and you'll see down here again on the left. Right now I'm looking at everything, but if I click this, then I'll be drilling in specifically on this device now, and that's the gateway router. And I see, again, some information down here, the description and vendor, description, networks, IP addresses, its router, model, software versions, firmware versions, etc. Again, it's up 161 days. I can see the number of interfaces maybe that are monitored. I've got my open alerts, my warnings, my informational warning right here, informational note and warnings right there. Got my SNMP and login status down here. And this one you can hardly see. It says traffic insights and it says forwarding. So this particular router, this supports NetFlow, especially Cisco, you know it would. So this router supports NetFlow, but other routers like Juniper has JFlow, and they all have a new standard IPFix that is taking over NetFlow. So lots of devices can transmit NetFlow data or IPFix data. So that is happening on this particular device. Again, I can scroll down on the screen and see very similar to what I saw on the other one. I can see my top interfaces by utilization, my transmit and my receive. And I can see device utilization. In this case, I do have data here. So I've got my average CPU, which is the blue line, my average memory. That's the yellow line, that's 74.67%, and then average storage, 7.43%. So that's pretty low there. So you can see that that's low, and that's in the middle there, about 38.61% on my average CPU on this chart. And I've got my device packets over here. And again, as before, last time I drilled in on this panel, I can do the same thing here. I can drill in on this panel and go into troubleshooting view and then do the same thing. So again, I've got my broadcast right here. These are my average broadcast, total broadcast, transmit broadcast, and receive broadcast. And again, I've got my different interfaces broken out here. So again, I can drill in and click on these as I did before. So I can close that down. So that's a lot of what's in here, is basically drilling into these devices. But again, what this will do, in addition to mapping everything, it keeps track of configuration changes. So that's nice. So you don't need to do that. I've got some menu choices here along the side, and then they're repeated down here on this side. So I just wanted to show you. So I've got inventory here that I can look at, and I can click in and see the networks and the interfaces. I've got alerts, which we kind of already looked at. I've got documentation. So there I can set that up, and again, I can basically look at all these configuration changes over time, and I can see specifically what it is. I'm not scrolling down through that, but that's listed there. I've got debug, so I can look at routes, ARP and FDB, network evidence, OID monitors, and there's hardware sensors. It's got 0 there. That may be something that can be set up. So I know a lot of you guys are network guys, and I'm not. So a lot of you are probably going, "Oh yeah, that'd be great. I know what I could do that exactly." I don't necessarily know, but I know a lot of network folks who look at this find it very useful. Audit logs. We've got remote management and user activity here. You can see any tunnels that are set up. Discovery as well, and then traffic insights. And then also syslog right here, so I could look at my syslog. So the traffic insights, again, you can set that up here if the device supports it. And then when you click Launch Dashboard, either from here or if you go over Traffic Insights over here, it launches in a separate window. And that's where you get your NetFlow information. That's what I talked about last week. So just real quickly, just to show you the NetFlow, if you clicked into that, you can see basically the traffic, kind of get some granular information on the traffic that's being looked at. For example, I can look at the application breakdown like I am here, and I'm looking at, I can roll over and see what the media streaming looks like. I've also got tunneling, network services, I got social media here, I've got VoIP, games, instant messaging, mail, P2P, and file sharing. So I got all these things that I can click on. Right now I'm looking at a total, but I can also click on media streaming, and that shows me just my media streaming, and I can see YouTube, Netflix, Twitch, Hulu, TikTok, etc., Spotify. What else we got here? iHeartRadio, Real Audio. And then I got it highlighted over here on Netflix, and I can see what my transfer is here. I can see what it looks like over time. So this is the kind of thing that you can get from NetFlow. And again, if you look for a link below after this broadcast, a few minutes after the broadcast, maybe 30 minutes after the broadcast, I'll go ahead and post that, and I'll put again a little pop-up right here where you can click in and watch that broadcast from last week on NetFlow. I go into what NetFlow is, kind of how it works, and then I show a lot more screens, live screens of NetFlow and what that looks like. So hopefully this was helpful. Thanks for joining me, and if it was helpful, please give me a thumbs up on the video. You can subscribe. There's a subscribe button below somewhere that you can click on. Also, I think, well, somewhere, where's my finger pointing? Right down there somewhere. You should see a Xecorum logo also, where you can click on that little Xecorum logo in the corner of the video, and that should bring up a subscribe as well. And if you'd like more information on this product on NetVizion, you see our phone number and our email address on the screen, and then also you can go to www.netvizion.net, and that'll bring up a web page that gives you a lot more information on that. You can download a product sheet. But again, love to talk to you about this product if it would be of interest to you. It's actually very reasonably priced, so if you need to do this kind of monitoring and also get access to NetFlow as well, this would be a great product for you. So thanks for joining me. Hope this was helpful again, and I will be back next Tuesday for Tech Tuesday. I will see you then. Bye-bye.